Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I'm glad you're here. And today, this is going to be my third and final part of the Volkswagen, the Bandai Volkswagen Beetle builds. What I'm going to be doing today is, I'm going to be showing you how to make a from scratch firewall to go in these, because not all of them come with the original interior that you can use and rob. I've done this before on another toy that belongs to a good friend of mine named Rex Conaway. This is his Wyandotte. You may have seen it in the background. What I done on it was cut out the front fenders. I made a floor pan for it, filled in the back holes, and I made a firewall and an interior from scratch. And that's what I had planned on doing with the Volkswagens, and I ended up using the original interior. So this week, on this one, I'm going to show you how to make this firewall for the Volkswagen Bandai Beetle. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is get you a piece of paper. If I stick with the width of my floor pan, I should be in good shape. Or cut your corners so that it'll get on up in there pretty good. Something like that. Now this method will work on just about anything. Just happens to be I'm doing it on a Volkswagen. So it's right up in there pretty good. So now what I want to do is match the contour up here. Good thing is, if you mess up, you can always start over. It's just paper. You just don't want to mess up on your metal. Metal's gotten expensive. Pretty close there. Yeah. Gotta work. Right on. So now we need to see how tall it has to be. So that's going to be about right there. So the bottom is going to be probably right in there. It's just paper. Pretty close there. Alright, so we got a piece of trim, and it's actually some leftover that I have from whenever I cut this all out. So I'm going to take my piece that I just kind of made the measurements for. Alright, let's go to the shear. We'll trim this down. Alright, back from the shear. Let's cut that Let's go get our shape in line. So on this, you're going to cut on the inside of the line because that's where your template was. Now, I got my fold right there. Just over an inch. That's about right. Let's go bend it. So I got me a scribe line in there. This jaw comes down to a point. So what I'm going to do, when you see me wiggling it back and forth, I'm filling that scribe line in that point. And once I get that point of that blade or jaw, or whatever you want to call it, that tooth, once I get that point of that tooth and that line, then I know that's exactly on my mark. That's why I don't use a marker, and I scribe it in. I'm dug into the metal to where the tooth of my brake can get down in there and make me a perfect bend. So here's that one. There's that one. Now I know I'm dead on my mark because I felt it drop into the groove. And as you can see, I'm right on the mark. Let's go put it on. Alright, so we're back from the shear. Normally I keep me a couple of magnets around, and we're going to do a test fit. So we're going to line it up, the back of this hole, the back of this tab, and the front of this tab. Just kind of move it just a little bit forward. Going to use our magnets here. Hold all that into place. So I need to slide it back. I was off a little. You can see down in there, right there's my firewall. So there we go. Now, look up in there. Looks pretty good. If I remember right, the Volkswagens didn't really have a whole lot of a firewall. So we're going to go with that. We're going to spot weld him right into place. Just like that. Okay. We got it all. Sure, it's hot. Let's put it together right. Well, and try to get you guys a little bit of a better look in there. Hard. We don't really have any light. Maybe you can kind of see it up in there a little bit. It just kind of comes right up to it real good. I think I'm going to leave it like that, put a steering wheel in and some seats. let's do that. Alright, so I probably should have done this before, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Let's make a steering wheel. This is a old Strutco hubcap. One of them that comes off the 40s Strutcos. Got the hole in the middle. I think this is some kind of a Tonka axle or something. I think what I'm going to do here is put it in there like that. Just use that as a steering wheel, not have any holes around it, and just it's a little low, but like I say, I can bend it up, bring it out. I'm going to go ahead and JB weld that in, and I'm going to go make the seats and get all this ready to put back together, and I'll show you the finished product. If you hadn't seen part 2 and part 1, I come in and I fill in all the bottom, take all the ugly stuff out, all the holes in the big battery box, fill it in with nice pretty smooth metal. Part 2, I use the original interior out of the Bandai King Sized, and I made seats from scratch and put in it. Then I used the rest of the interior and made a part of the back. So if you want to see how I make the seats and everything, just go back and watch part 2. If you want to see how I do the bottom, go back and watch part 1. Once I get this one finished up and ready to put back together, I'll come back and show you what we got. I'm also going to go ahead and put in the, go ahead and lower it, and I'll show you that whenever I do it, and show you how I mark my holes and everything. So I'll be right back with you. Alright, well here we are. We got everything ready to put together, and the axles mounted and everything like that. I didn't slam this one. I just kind of wanted to give it a real cool rake. You'll see that in a few minutes when I put it back together. Basically, my steering wheel, let me spin it around here where you can kind of get a little look. I just took a little piece of scrap metal, spot welded it to the firewall, come out, up, put me a hole in it, and bend it around, and put it to where it'll stop the steering wheel from pushing through. And I'll just put a little glob of JB weld around this end to keep it from pulling out. It's not really going to get a lot of use, so you know that still leaves it to where it can turn, and but it's not going to come out. And the seats, I went ahead and covered them with the same red tight knit corduroy. Done a terrible job, like always. And you can see the floor's looking, you know, kind of covered everything up. The tabs for the axles, let me slide that over a little bit there. You can see the old tab here, and basically what I do is I just go right above the original axle hole straight up, and on this one I just went just barely above the original tab on all 4 corners. Now you can go a lot higher and get it low like that, but you'll see the difference in the two here in just a few minutes. And in the back, same thing, just put the little tabs in. There you go. Kind of see them in there a little bit. And we got our engine mounted. We got everything ready to go back together. Also, I cut the back and the front off. This is a later version of this toy, and it had these great big old shoebox bumpers on it that just look awful to me. Some people like them, some people hate them. I don't really care for them, so I cut it all off and just kind of hammered around. And I'll hammer that in a little bit tighter whenever I put it all back together. But she's ready to go back together, fellas. So let's go ahead and see how they look together, and I'll show you exactly. Oh, here's the bottom, as you can see. And it's all painted. It's not perfect, but you know, it's an old toy. And keep in mind, all that's spot welded in. It's not TIG welded or MIG welded or anything like that. It's all spot weld work. And that ridge is the original ridge I laid on top of that. So if you want to go back and watch the other 2 videos, you'll see how I done that. Filled in the battery box hole and the bump and go. But other than that, let's see how they look put together. you all being here. And as you can see, we got both the Beetles put together. We got the floor pans made for the other ones, and showed you how I done everything, how I filled in the bottom, how I made the interior, how I used the old Bandai interior to make a firewall, how I made one from scratch. We pretty much covered these soup to nuts, so we're going to wrap this one on up. And if you like the content, go ahead and hit the smash and like button for me. I sure do appreciate it. And you all have a great day. Thanks again for being here.